everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and I think I have the most difficult task because first of all of you I think know everything about Russia as well as about CIS countries, and secondly Russia and Latvia as well as other Baltic states, we have some very specific relations between each other. So, but still, what mission do I think I have is to try to convince you that still Russia is the best market for Latvian companies. So, brief introduction to our company. Our company is called ALT, Research and Consulting Company. We are GIA member responsible for Russia and CIS countries. We have two offices in Moscow and St. Petersburg. And mainly we are specializing on strategy development. We help international as well as Russian companies to develop, to understand best niches, to identify potential customers, choose best channel strategy, etc. And secondly, we help companies to optimize business processes, management structure, what also could be useful for you if, for example, you will invest in Russia, buy some companies, joint ventures, etc. So, as well, we work, you should know that mostly we are a bit different from other GIA companies and members. We are working mostly with Russian companies and a bit with international companies. So we work with very different industries. So let's move to the business opportunities. If you don't mind, I will skip, I'll go very quickly through all the basic figures because I think you know all them. You know that in CIS currently we have 12 countries from 15 Soviet republics, 3 Baltic states, and those are others. And I think you know that altogether there are around 300 million people. Of them, half of the population is Russia, but Russia still counts for 80% of the overall GDP. I think you know all these basic data, so I will just focus maybe on some key issues which you should keep in mind. First of all, very vast regional disparities. I think this is very interesting also. Table, the number of billionaires in Russia is the second after US, which shows a very vast level of disparities between different niches in population. So different regions are different markets in terms of consumption habits, in terms of manufacturing, etc., etc. So you all know we are a very commodity addicted country. That is why our GDP fell down the most rate among BRIC countries. So it was 8% GDP fall, because we were highly dependent on metal, oil, and gas prices, which fell down sometimes 4 or 5 times during crisis. So, government role is highly decreasing last 2 years. I think you should be aware about it. And now, government controls more than 50% of our GDP, because during the crisis, many assets came to the ownership of the government or under its control. So, and I think you faced this, that we have like a South Korea economical structure. So we have, I would say that less than 500 companies control over 80% of our GDP. So we have big financial and industrial groups, like the same I think in Japan, which controls very different industries, and they are very highly diversified. And decision-making process among these companies is very, very specific and complex. So I will skip this because I think we should not differentiate ourselves among BRIC countries in Latvia. So, what I would like to point out here is some key, maybe some specific ideas maybe will be interesting for you. So, still, due to the crisis, many companies and many segments and even industries were completely overhauled. So many leaders went bankrupt, many companies were sold out, and some came to the banks, etc. So it's a good period to enter Russian market. 2010 was the best year, I think, but still there are still opportunities because costs are rising, like salaries, renting, etc. But still they are a bit below before crisis period. As well, some companies escaped. So there are some niches. So, and for example, if you plan to buy some company in Russia, still the PE ratios are relatively low. So you see, many international companies are realizing this still. So if we are talking about B2C, I would highly strengthen this point for you. And all big retailers are looking for qualified suppliers, and it's a problem for them to find proper suppliers. One of the reasons is that, you know, typical Russian owner of the company with which we usually work, they see private labels as a bit, you know, not so convenient. It's not so good to produce private label. There is still specific mentality. So I think it's a very good opportunity to go to Russian market. In every sector, DIY chains, food, supermarkets, mega stores, etc. So this is, and as well we have very big distributors, large, nationwide, which were growing due to the exclusive contracts with big international brands, but now they quitting these contracts and establishing their own offices in Russia. So, but these distributors are looking for some interesting brands to distribute or to work with. So, still service sector has a good potential. Enormous. I think anything you can do, you can start, go and open, from restaurant to beauty salon. B2B, I think logistics and infrastructure is still